Hi everyone, I'm Alfie66 and just how bad can your club's signings get? Today I'm going to take a look at each Premier League club and decide the most disappointing signing that your club's made over the last 5 seasons. That's between the 2021 season and the 24-25 season, which is this season. By the way guys, thank you so much for getting my one player every Premier League club must sell video to 1,000 views. For a video that comes from a channel as small as mine, it really means a lot, so thank you. Anyway, on with the video. Arsenal, Willian. Arsenal's signings over the last 5 years is like trying to cross the border between the Koreas. North Korea representing Arsenal in the 2021 and 21-22 seasons, and South Korea being Arsenal from the 22-23 season onward. Arsenal made 14 signings in all 4 transfer windows from the 2021 and 21-22 seasons combined, and I'm going to say only 5 were successful, those being Ben White, Aaron Ramsdale, Thomas Partey, Gabriel and Martin Odegaard. Cedric and Takehiro Tomiyasu were alright, but every other transfer Arsenal made in that time span were about as much use to the club as a pair of broken drumsticks. And one of those terrible transfers was this guy, Willian. Someone who absolutely dazzled at Chelsea on the wing. By the time he turned up in North London, he dried up quicker than a pond in the Sahara Desert. He played 46 times for the club, scored once, and was released to Corinthians just 1 year later. And there was so much hype around this guy. And he turned out to be as useful as Mark Clattenburg's yellow card after Max Voss shredded it in the Sidemen charity match. He's definitely on the list for Arsenal's worst signings of all time. Aston Villa, Leander Dendoncker. Aston Villa was a really tough choice. They did some crazy transfer business this year, but as soon as you got past August 31st, it all fell apart. They signed 8 players in the summer transfer window, and only 3 stayed at the club. Lewis Dobbin, Enzo Baranechea and Samuel Lilling Jr. all left on loan, while Cameron Archer got sold to Southampton just a month after he re-signed for the club. And Jadon Philogene, 6 months after rejoining Aston Villa, he left for Ipswich. Honestly, why did they re-sign Cameron Archer and Jadon Philogene? It's like that bloke who sells his gaming console and then 1 year later demands it back because the next instalment of his favourite games just come out. So Archer and Philogene come close to being the most disappointing Villa signing from the last 5 years. But no, the answer here is Leander Dendoncker. A guy whose name's got more D's than Britney Spears. I'm not finishing that sentence. And someone who looked quality in defensive midfield while at Wolves, so much so that apparently Man United were interested in him when they were actually a decent team. In the 2019-20 season, he played at least 1 minute in every single game and got 4 goals from defensive midfield. It's a decent tally for a defensive midfielder. He decided to take a short journey to Birmingham to play for Villa, and has been miserable. He's still on their books now. He played 20 league games in his first season at Villa and didn't score once. But somehow, in the 23-24 season, from only 8 games, he managed to score. In January, he went to Napoli for a 3-game loan spell, but he's now back in Belgium playing for Anderlecht, but he's still on loan from Villa. But let's be honest, if he ever does come back, he'll just get sent out on loan again to somewhere random like... I can't even think of a club. Wow. But anyway, big downgrade from his Wolves form, £13 million wasted. Bournemouth, Hamed Traore. Max Aarons pushes it quite close here, and it's devastating what's happened to him. From being wanted by Barcelona and Bayern Munich, to now being frozen out of Bournemouth and now in a relegation dogfight in Spain. It's really sad to see, he had such big hype when he was younger. But no, my pick is Hamed Traore. He originally joined Bournemouth in January 2023 on a loan spell from Sassuolo. He only played 7 times. But fair enough, he must have been good because the next summer they bought him permanently for 22 million. And in 2 years of being a full Bournemouth player, he's played 6 games. He's played 6 times as a full Bournemouth player, all coming in the first half of the 23-24 season. He's only scored 1 goal against Swansea in the League Cup. He spent the second half of the 23-24 season on loan at Napoli, where he barely did anything. And he's now on loan at Auxerre in Ligue 1, where he's playing with the likes of Gabriel Osho and Kijana Hoeva. Remember that right back who flopped at Wolves almost 5 years ago? Why did they make his loan move permanent? And how has he played more for Bournemouth in 6 months than he has in 2 years? Brentford, Igor Thiago. Brentford might have had the worst transfer window out of any club this year, and if not, they're definitely up there. Igor Thiago and Fabio Carvalho, their 2 most expensive signings of this year's transfer window, have both been massive flops. And Igor Thiago, their club record signing, has been an absolute waste. It's a bit of a big statement, but I'm going to say it. If the circumstances of Igor Thiago and Brentford stay the same, then he'll definitely be up there for worst Premier League signing of all time. But it's kind of sad what's happened to him. He was signed by Brentford for £30 million, which is their club record signing and the biggest ever sale from the Belgian Pro League. He was brought in to be Ivan Toney's replacement. I mean, come on, he even has the same initials as him. But he then tore his meniscus in pre-season. He crawled back to play 4 league games for Brentford and then picked up a knee infection and hasn't been seen since. Look, I'm not saying this is set in stone. He could come back next season and score about 20 goals. But with Brian Mbeumo and Johan Wissa being in such good form, I can't see him having a future at Brentford. And do you remember Wesley? Igor Thiago is doing the exact same thing as him. Wesley signed for Aston Villa in 2019. He started his Aston Villa career decently well, but then he tore his cruciate ligament on New Year's Day in 2020. And from then on, he played 4 times in 2 years for Aston Villa. Wesley is now 28 and he's playing in the 2nd division of Turkey. So there's a life lesson. Because of what's happened to Wesley and Igor Thiago, stop buying Brazilian strikers from Club Brugge. Brighton Ansu Fati. This might just be the most depressing pick of the list, and you know why. Ansu Fati came through at Barcelona and was meant to be one of the best wingers of all time. He had the potential to be exactly that, but injuries absolutely annihilated him, and even when he came to the Premier League. He signed for Brighton in August 2023 on loan, and he started his Brighton career well, but he missed January and February that year with a calf injury, and from March onwards he started 1 game. He played 27 times in all competitions for Brighton and scored 4 goals, and all of them came in the first half of the season. Poor guy. Chelsea, Romelu Lukaku. Again, Chelsea was really hard to pick one. There were so many options, quite literally. I'm guessing Chelsea's gym's more overcrowded than a prison in Memphis. But my pick is Romelu Lukaku, and I'm sure many Premier League fans will remember his second spell at Chelsea. It was terrible. They paid just short of 100 million for him, which in terms of all of his transfer fees over time added together made him the most expensive player ever. This guy was one of the best strikers in the world, so surely he's going to bang for Chelsea. Nope. He got 8 goals from 26 league games, and he went on a run mid-season of 14 league games without scoring a goal. On the one season he was back in the Premier League, which was the 21-22 season, he was outscored by Emmanuel Dennis, Emile Smith-Rowe and Maxwell Cornet, players who were the literal definition of one-season wonders, because the next season they all must have thought that their goal tallies from the previous season were a dream. Yeah, quite self-explanatory. Romelu Lukaku, during his second spell at Chelsea, he was absolute horror. Crystal Palace, Matheus França. Matheus França was incredible for Flamengo in Brazil, so much so that Chelsea and Real Madrid were both interested in him. Chelsea had big plans to bring him in the same summer they brought in Carney Chukwuemeka, Omari Hutchinson and Gabriel Slonina. Poor youngsters. Being at Chelsea as a youngster was probably more painful than being in prison, being forced to listen to Katy Perry songs. Honestly, you come out more desensitised than these donut kids that go around saying skibbity signal bullshit. Some of these donut kids, they really annoy me. But he decided to save his life and moved to Crystal Palace for 17 million. He played 14 games in his debut season. Now in his second season at the club, he's missed every single game of the season with a rib fracture until last weekend, where he made the bench for the first time since last year. That is pretty depressing. Everton, Dele Alli. Sorry. Just, we hate Tottenham, we hate Tottenham. But also being an England fan, it is quite upsetting what's happened to Dele Alli. After ever so slowly falling out of form at Spurs, he moved to Everton supposedly to save his career, and it did the exact opposite. He played 11 games and didn't score once. He spent a year playing for Besiktas in Turkey, where he did nothing. He picked up an injury in February and never played for the club again. He spent a year and a half without a club, and he's now got back into football for Como in Italy, who under the management of Cesc Fabregas, look at one of their matchday squads and you probably recognise about half the team. So he's come back into football for Como, but got sent off 9 minutes into his debut. How has he done that? From having the potential to be one of England's best players of all time, to dragging yourself back onto the pitch after a year and a half away, and then getting dragged straight back off the pitch. Ouch. Fulham, Anthony Knockaert. I bet there's a sizable chunk of you that forgot that Anthony Knockaert played for Fulham. He originally impressed on loan at Fulham in the 1920 season, so Fulham decided to buy him for 9.8 million permanently from Brighton, and since then he played 7 times for Fulham. As we've already seen in this video with Hamad Traore, as soon as you buy a player that impressed on loan at your club, he'll just fail. They bought him permanently in 2020 and he was immediately loaned out to Forest in the Championship, where he played frequently enough but didn't score frequently. And when he returned to Fulham in the 21-22 season, he went on one of the most bizarre injury cycles we've ever seen. He missed every game up until November, played twice, got injured again, played twice in January, and then picked up an injury that would keep him out until the end of the season. And now, after a couple loan moves away, he's now playing in Belgium for a team that doesn't even have their own Wikipedia page. Bad buy. Ipswich, Ariane Muric. I'm not going to lie, I paid no attention to Ipswich while they weren't in the Premier League. So if you think Ipswich have made any worse signings than Muric, let me know in the comments. But my pick is definitely him. It's like not checking the label before you buy something. You buy a pack of tomatoes and get home and realise they went off 5 years ago. Did the Ipswich scouts just not bother to watch any footage of Muric's games? Remember last season, Burnley were playing Brighton and Burnley were 1-0 up in a big position to survive. Until Sanderberg played a back pass to Muric, which he let slip under his foot and went into his own net. And ultimately cost them 2 vital points that could have helped them survive relegation. This guy has clearly got the goalkeeping ability of a half-eaten Freddo. And this season, after a series of poor performances, he's being relegated to the bench by Christian Walton. Who? Christian Walton, after 9 years of being a first-team player for Brighton, played 6 games. It was like Brighton's version of Emi Martinez while he was at Arsenal. His Brighton career was about as memorable as the names of your friends from nursery. And now he doesn't even make the bench anymore because they've signed Alex Palmer from West Brom. They might be however many points off the relegation zone if they had signed Palmer in the summer, not Muric, as he clearly has the reflexes of a crippled sloth. Leicester Harry Souttar. Another signing that happened in the 22-23 season. He was brought in by Leicester supposedly to help them survive relegation. They paid $14.5 million for him and it did not work at all. He literally just sat in Leicester's backline with a very bad Wout farce at the time, just imagining Mario Kart in his head instead of concentrating on the match, and couldn't stop them from getting relegated. During that season, Leicester went on a 9-game winless run that only featured 1 draw. Souttar played 90 minutes in every game but 1. Look, I'm not saying the 9-game winless run was his fault, but still, for a club as respectable as Leicester, going on a 9-game winless run, that is just terrible. And when they did get relegated to the Championship, he played 4 games all of the following season. And this season he was loaned out to Sheffield United and started pretty well, but tore his Achilles straight after Christmas and he's been sent back to Leicester where he hasn't been seen since. Liverpool, Arthur Melo.
Oh, it's just Arthur.
Shut the up. Might be the most pointless loan spell ever. For someone who once made a transfer of 80 million euros between Barcelona and Juventus, this is pretty embarrassing. He was signed by Liverpool on loan from Juventus. He didn't once play in the league, and his only game for Liverpool was a cameo appearance against Napoli in the Champions League where he did nothing. He missed half of the season through surgery. He managed to crawl back into the team to make 5 matchday benches. Yeah, his Liverpool career is about as memorable as the names of the songs featured in an episode of The Inbetweeners. I could only tell you one. Fluorescent Adolescent, what a tune. Arthur Melo, what a terrible loan. Man City, Calvin Phillips. You could argue that it's Jack Grealish, but my pick is 100% Calvin Phillips. After club legend Fernandinho left on a free, they brought in Calvin Phillips for about 44 million to replace him. They paid 44 million for him and he's played 16 games for Manchester City in the Premier League and 2 were starts. He was that useless to Man City, he was then shoved out on loan to West Ham, which had massive hype that all came out to absolutely nothing. And he's performing alright at Ipswich this season, but his Manchester City career is dead. It's not coming back. Man United, Anthony. Do I even need to explain? It's quite sad to see, especially because he's still only 25. They paid 80 million for him and he's been absolute crap. Newcastle, Chris Wood. It's absolutely mad to think that someone who's absolutely destroying the Premier League with Forest right now is on this list. To be honest, this guy's been through more clubs than a golf player with anger issues. He scored 49 goals in 144 league games for a pretty rubbish Burnley team, and he was snapped up by Newcastle in January 2022 to become their first choice striker, which was an idiot move. He played the full 90 minutes for his first 10 games straight and got 1 goal, and he scored 1 goal for the rest of the season. He then got banished to the bench for the first half of the 22-23 season and picked up by Forest on loan in January, where he signed permanently the next summer And in one of the biggest pieces of football karma we've ever seen, he scored a hat-trick against Newcastle. What a turning point, not gonna lie, but for 25 million, that is a massive waste for Newcastle. Nottingham Forest Jesse Lingard. Again, quite self-explanatory, the sequel to Dele Alli. Signed by Forest on a free at the beginning of the 22-23 season. He played 14 league games for Forest and didn't score once. And from December, he played 60 minutes in the league all season. And he's now playing in Korea. Again, massive fall from grace, massive wasted signing. Southampton Mislav Orsic. How are so many of these picks transfers from the 22-23 season? That definitely says something about the transfers made in that season. I feel sorry for Orsic because he had a massive downgrade in the 22-23 season. He started the season at Dynamo Zagreb and was in immaculate form. This guy scored the winner to beat Chelsea in the Champions League group stage that season. In the Champions League game later, he scored their only goal in a 3-1 defeat to AC Milan. In the 15 games he played for Dynamo Zagreb before he moved to Southampton that season, he got 8 goals and 7 assists. And he even went to the World Cup with Croatia where he scored an absolute banger in the 3rd place playoff, which would eventually win it for them. So when he signed for bottom of the table Southampton in January 2023, I did, and I'm sure many other football fans thought this was going to massively boost their form. Right? Wrong. He played 1 league game. He played 6 minutes of Premier League football and only made the bench on 3 other occasions. How does that fall from grace happen in 1 season? Tottenham Richarlison. Again a transfer that happened in the 22-23 season. This might be the worst pick. Because under Ange Postecoglou, Richarlison's actually in decent form. As we saw last season, he isn't complete cat pee. But in his first season at Tottenham, I'm guessing he was probably thinking of all his pigeon mates at the park instead of concentrating on the match. He scored 1 goal in his first season, but once Ange Postecoglou was manager and Harry Kane left, Ange pretty much had to play him up front. And he got a decent goal tally last season, but we will never forget his first season at Spurs. Now, some of the signings that Tottenham have made this season, give them a bit of time and they might top this. Antonin Kinski and Fraser Forster were not far off. West Ham Gianluca Scamacca. 22-23 season. This signing is known by many football fans to be terrible. He scored 3 goals from 16 league games, but somehow scored 3 goals from 6 games in the Conference League. In total, he scored 8 goals in 27 games for West Ham. He started his West Ham career decently well, but then picked up an injury in February and that kept him out for the rest of the season and eventually made him miss the Europa Conference League final, which they would win. They signed him for $32.5 million and sold him back to Sassuolo just a year later because he apparently had mental health issues at West Ham. The guy wanted to leave West Ham. Wasteful. Wolves Fabio Silva. Again, known by many to be a very terrible signing. Wasn't this guy meant to be the next big striker for Portugal? Wolves' replacement for Diogo Jota? Well, how's that working out for you? He was signed by Wolves for $34 million. He scored 4 league goals in his first season out of 32 games. And the next season played 22 games and didn't score once. And since then he's had loan spells with Rangers, PSV and Anderlecht, and he's now on loan at Las Palmas in Spain. £34 million for a striker that only scored 4 goals in 2 years. Might be Wolves' worst ever signing. Might not be, I don't know much about the club, but Wolves fans, get in my comment section and say if you've signed someone worse than Fabio Silva. So that's all 20 teams. Thanks for watching this video. Can we beat 1,000 views to make this my most viewed video? If you enjoyed the video, leave a like, subscribe with notifications on so you don't miss an upload, and I will see you in the next video.